Let us start a new subtopic, that is respiration. The process of releasing energy from food is called respiration. When oxygen burns the food in the cells of the body to release energy, then carbon dioxide and water are produced as waste products which are to be eliminated from the body. So the process of respiration involves taking in oxygen into the cells, using it for releasing energy by burning food, and then eliminating the waste products like carbon dioxide and water from the body. So the process of respiration can be written in the form of a word equation as follows, that is, food plus oxygen will give carbon dioxide, water, and energy will be released. The process of respiration, which releases energy, takes place inside the cells of the body. So it is also known as cellular respiration. Let us understand the difference between the terms breathing and respiration. So the mechanism by which organisms obtain oxygen from air and release carbon dioxide is called breathing. Respiration is more complex process. Respiration includes breathing as well as the oxidation of food in the cells of the organism to release energy. Breathing is a physical process, whereas respiration also includes biochemical process of oxidation of food. The process of breathing involves the lungs of the organism, whereas the process of respiration also involves the mitochondria in the cells where food is oxidized to release energy. Respiration is actually a biochemical process which occurs in stages and requires many enzymes. The main purpose of respiration is the release of energy from the oxidation of simple food molecules like glucose. The energy released during respiration is used for carrying out the biological functions which are necessary for the maintenance of life and survival of an organism. Please note that respiration is just opposite of photosynthesis. How energy released during respiration is stored? Let us answer this question. The energy produced during respiration is stored in the form of ATP molecules in the cells of the body and used by the organism as and when required. In order to understand this, we should first know the meaning of ADP, ATP, and inorganic phosphate. So ADP is a substance called adenosine diphosphate. The molecules of ADP are present in a cell. ADP has low energy content. ATP is a substance called adenosine triphosphate. It is also present inside a cell. ATP has high energy content. Now, inorganic phosphate is a substance which contains a phosphate group made up of phosphorus and oxygen. Inorganic phosphates are also present in a cell. The energy released during respiration is used to make ATP molecules from ADP and inorganic phosphate. So this happens as follows. ADP combines with inorganic phosphate by absorbing energy released during respiration to form ATP molecules. That is, ADP plus phosphate plus energy gives ATP. When the cell needs energy, then ATP can be broken down using water to release energy. Thus, ATP gives ADP plus phosphate plus energy. The energy released by ATP is used to carry out all the endothermic reactions taking place in the cells. The energy stored in ATP is used by the body cells for various purposes like contraction of muscles, conduction of nerve impulses, synthesis of proteins, and many other activities related to the functioning of cells. In fact, ATP is known as the energy currency of cells. Before we describe aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration, we should keep the following points in mind, which will help us in understanding the two types of respiration. The following 5 points, for the importance of the following 5 points, you'll understand when you'll read the NCERT chapter. So you'll get the importance of all 5 points, and then you'll realize how relevant and how convenient these 5 points are by understanding while I'm explaining it. Okay, so first point is glucose is C6H12O6. It is 6-carbon atom compound. It is a simple food which is oxidized in the cells of organisms during respiration. The oxidation of glucose to pyruvic acid or pyruvate is called glycolysis. Please remember this, oxidation of glucose to pyruvic or pyruvate is called glycolysis. It occurs in the cytoplasm of a cell and not in mitochondria. The oxidation of glucose to pyruvic acid does not require oxygen. One molecule of glucose on glycolysis produces 2 molecules of pyruvic acid or pyruvate. Pyruvic acid is a 3-carbon atom compound. It is called pyruvate. The formula for pyruvic acid is CH3C double bond O COOH. It is a ketonic carboxylic acid. You need not worry about this name, ketonic carboxylic acid, because we'll be understanding in the further chapters, or else while you are with me for the session, you'll understand. Like I make clear, I make my student understand the terms, all these terms in details, and with basic concepts. The lack of pyruvate formed during respiration depends on whether oxygen is present in the cells or not. If oxygen is present in the cells, then pyruvate is completely oxidized to carbon dioxide and water, and lot of energy is produced in the form of ATP. If, however, oxygen is not present in the cells, that is, in the absence of oxygen, pyruvate is converted to either ethanol and carbon dioxide or lactic acid, depending on whether such a process is taking place in a plant cell or animal cells. Much less energy is released in this case. This fourth point is very, very important. Lactic acid is also a 3-carbon atom compound. It is called lactate. The formula for lactic acid or lactate is CH3CHOH. It is hydroxycarboxylic acid. Let us study about the types of respiration, that is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. So first we'll understand what is aerobic respiration. The respiration which uses oxygen is called aerobic respiration, as straight and simple as that. It is called aerobic respiration because it uses air which contains oxygen. In aerobic respiration, the glucose food is completely broken down into carbon dioxide and water by oxidation. The breaking down of glucose during aerobic respiration can be represented as follows. Glucose gives pyruvate, that is pyruvic acid, and in the presence of it is aerobic respiration, so oxygen is available in abundant. So we are getting the product as CO2, water, and 38 ATP. Just mark this, 38 ATP means a very high amount of energy. You'll notice in fact I will make you to notice this in the anaerobic respiration also. So this is nothing but a Krebs cycle. So glucose gives you pyruvate, and in presence of abundant oxygen, that is aerobic respiration, you will get complete conversion of pyruvate into carbon dioxide, water, and 38 ATP molecules. Please do not worry about the name Krebs cycle, because we'll be studying this in higher classes. Mitochondria are the sites of aerobic respiration in the cells. Thus, the breakdown of pyruvate to carbon dioxide, water, and energy takes place in mitochondria. Now we'll study about anaerobic respiration. The respiration which takes place without oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. The microscopic organisms like yeast and some bacteria obtain energy by anaerobic respiration, which is also called fermentation. In anaerobic respiration, the microorganisms like yeast break down glucose into ethanol and carbon dioxide and release energy. This energy is then used by the microorganisms. The anaerobic respiration produces much less energy which gets stored in the ATP molecules. The breaking down of glucose during anaerobic respiration carried out by yeast plants can be represented as follows. So glucose uh, during the process of glycolysis produces pyruvate. So in the absence of oxygen, now observe this. So had it been the abundant oxygen available, then the product would have been CO2, water, and very high ATP, 30 ATP molecules, if you remember in the previous, like in the aerobic respiration. But here we are getting ethanol, carbon dioxide, and only 2 ATP molecules. See, so in the absence of oxygen, we are getting less energy molecules. Okay, and we are getting ethanol. Else we would have got more CO2 and water molecules. So note that the whole process of anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm of cells. We, the human beings, obtain energy by aerobic respiration. But anaerobic respiration can sometimes take place in our muscles. For example, anaerobic respiration takes place in our muscles during vigorous physical exercise when oxygen gets used up in the muscle cells. And the oxygen is supplied to the muscles by the blood. So when anaerobic respiration takes place in human muscles, then glucose is converted into lactic acid. Remember this and please note that. Then the glucose is converted into lactic acid with the release of small amount of energy. See, just recollect the anaerobic respiration reaction. The breaking down of glucose during anaerobic respiration in muscles can be represented as glucose during the process of glycolysis in cytoplasm gives pyruvate, and in the anaerobic respiration, in the absence of oxygen, it gives 2 lactic acid and ATP molecules. Okay. So the anaerobic respiration by muscles bring out partial breakdown of glucose to form lactic acid. This lactic acid accumulates in the muscles. The accumulation of lactic acid in the muscles causes muscle cramps. Thus, muscle cramps occur due to accumulation of lactic acid in muscles when the muscle respire anaerobically while doing hard physical exercise. So we can get relief from cramps in muscles caused by heavy exercise by taking a hot water bath or a massage. Now let us study respiration in plants. The respiration in plants differs from that of animals in 3 respects. All the parts of plants like roots, stem and leaves perform respiration individually. On the other hand, an animal performs respiration as a single unit. Okay, so this is the first difference. Second, during respiration in plants, there is a little transport of respiratory gases from one part of the plant to other. On the other hand, respiratory gases are usually transported over long distances inside an animal during respiration. Okay, so third, the respiration in plants occurs at a slow rate. On the other hand, the respiration in animals occurs at a much faster rate. Respiration in roots. Air is present in between the particles of soil. The roots of a plant take the oxygen required for respiration from air present in between the soil particles by the process of diffusion. The extensions of the epidermal cells of a root are called root hairs. The root hairs are in contact with air in the soil. Oxygen diffuses into root hairs and reaches all the other cells of the root for respiration. Carbon dioxide gas produced in the cells of the root during respiration moves out through the same root hairs by the process of diffusion. Thus, the respiration in root occurs by the diffusion of respiratory gases through the root hairs. Respiration in stems. The stems of herbaceous plants or herbs have stomata. So the exchange of respiratory gases in the stems of herbaceous plants takes place through stomata. The oxygen from air diffuses into the stem of a herbaceous plant through stomata and reaches all the cells for respiration. The carbon dioxide gas produced during respiration diffuses out into the air through the same stomata. The hard and woody stem of big plants or trees do not have stomata. In woody stems, the bark has tentacles for gaseous exchange. The oxygen from air diffuses into the stem of a woody plant through lenticles and reaches all the inner cells of the stem for respiration. So, how respiration in leaves is taken about? The leaves of a plant have tiny pores called stomata. The exchange of respiratory gases in the leaves takes place by the process of diffusion through stomata. Oxygen from air diffuses into a leaf through stomata and reaches all the cells where it is used in respiration. The carbon dioxide produced during respiration diffuses out from the leaf into the air through the stomata. Now, it should be noted that respiration in leaves occurs during the daytime as well as at night. On the other hand, photosynthesis occurs only during the daytime. So, due to this, the net gaseous exchange in the leaves of plants is as follows. So, during daytime, when photosynthesis occurs, oxygen is produced. The leaves use some of this oxygen for respiration, and the rest of oxygen diffuses into air. Again, during daytime, carbon dioxide produced by respiration is all used up in photosynthesis by leaves. Even more carbon dioxide is taken in from air. Thus, the net exchange in leaves during daytime is O2 diffuses out, CO2 diffuses in. And in the night time, it is O2 diffuses in and CO2 diffuses out. Now we'll study about respiration in amoeba, respiration in earthworm and respiration in fish. Okay, so first let us see in short about respiration in amoeba. The breathing surface of amoeba is its cell surface membrane. In addition to amoeba, other simple animals like paramecium and planaria also depend on the simple diffusion of gases for breathing and respiration. Thus, amoeba, paramecium and planaria all breathe through their cell membranes. In the small single-celled animals such as amoeba, the volume of their body is so small that oxygen can be introduced quickly into the whole body by the process of diffusion. Now that we have studied about the diffusion in the section that is respiration in amoeba, so I would like to tell something about diffusion in human respiration. So diffusion is insufficient to meet the oxygen requirement of large multicellular organisms like humans. Why? Because the volume of human body is so big that oxygen cannot diffuse into all the cells of the human body quickly. So this is because oxygen will have to travel large distances inside human body to reach each and every cell. Diffusion, being a very slow process, will take a lot of time to make oxygen available to all the cells of the body. For example, it has been estimated that if diffusion were to provide oxygen in our body, then it would take about 3 years for a molecule of oxygen from our lungs to reach our toes by the process of diffusion. On the other hand, the blood circulatory system in humans carries oxygen to all parts of the body quickly and also removes carbon dioxide quickly. Actually, human blood contains a respiratory pigment called hemoglobin, which carries the oxygen from lungs to all the parts, all these body cells very efficiently. So, hemoglobin is present in red blood corpuscles. So, with this, we'll now move on to another section, that is respiration in earthworm. Respiration in earthworm. The earthworm exchanges the gases through its skin. This means that the respiratory surface of an earthworm is its skin. The skin of an earthworm is quite thin and moist and has a good blood supply. So, the earthworm absorbs the oxygen needed for respiration through its moist skin. Now, respiration in fish. Now, fish has special organs of breathing called gills. The fish breathes by taking in water through its mouth and sending it over the gills. When water passes over the gills extract dissolved oxygen from this water. The water then goes out through the gill slits. Thus, the dissolved oxygen is extracted from water by a fish when it flows over the gills. The extracted oxygen is absorbed by blood and carried to all the parts of the fish. The carbon dioxide produced by respiration is brought by the blood into the gills for expelling into the surrounding water. The fish has no lungs like us. The gaseous exchange in fish takes place in the gills. So the respiratory surface of a fish is the surface of its gills.